Hello and welcome to Technical Utkranti. Today we look into data types and their significance. Before moving ahead, firstly recap what we did in the last video and what we'll cover in this video. In last video we looked into preprocessor directives and its comparison with variables and constants. We also learned what is recursion and how preprocessor directives are not suitable for it. In the current video, we will see the significance of data types, some important terminologies like statically and dynamically typed language, weakly and strongly typed language, size of data types, and finally endianness. So let's get started. What is data type? When the programmer has to store data in the computer needs two informations. Firstly, the format of the data, how is it going to store the data, and the data itself, the value. The data type of the object in memory determines the set of values it can have and operations that can be performed on it. For example, unsigned short int is usually of 16 bits. So it can store values from 0 to 2 to the power of 16 minus 1, which is 65535. Let's see what happens when we store a value greater than that. So we have unsigned, okay, we have short unsigned int x and we give it the value of 65535. Okay, now we increment it by 1 and again print it. Let's see what we get. When the variable had the value of 65535, it printed it as it is because it is coming in 16 bits, this value. But as soon as we added 1 to it, it became 65536, which is taking 17 bits. But since the data type is only 16 bits long, it just took the first 16 bits and printed the value, thereby printing 0. As evident from this illustration as well. Data type also tells what are the allowed operations on a particular data. Mathematical operations could be performed on numerical data types, and for example addition of two integers is allowed, but integer and string is not allowed in C. Worth noting that integer and character addition is allowed because character is after all an integer ASCII value only. So I'll illustrate it with the help of code. You have chr char C is equal to A. Characters always come in single quote, not in double quote. In Python this differentiation is not there, but in C this is there. Character C equal to A, and let's say you want to print B, so you can do C equals to C plus 1 and you can print so you got B, okay, which means that integer and character additions is allowed. Let's move on. Okay, weakly typed language. What is weakly typed language? A language has a set of rules on its type. For example, one type conversion to other type conversion. There will be certain types. Some type castings would be allowed, some type castings would not be allowed. The set of rules which C implements in terms of type checking are considered as weak. Why is it like that? Because it allows some typecasting which could be potentially dangerous, in the sense that it could result in loss of data. For example, if 32-bit data is typecasted to a 16-bit data, then there could be loss of information. When float is typecasted to integer, then there is loss of precision. Similarly, when the data type is not mentioned in the function argument, then the by default assumption which the compiler makes is integer data type, which again could be a problem. Alright, that is why, because of all these features, C is considered as a weakly typed language. On the contrary, there is another term called a strongly typed language, whose type checking conformities are very strong, so that the possibility of data loss or precision loss is negligible in such languages. One such feature of such a language is that the typecasting allowed would only be from a lower size data type to a higher size data type. In such a typecasting, there is no possibility of data loss. So, I hope weakly typed and strongly typed language you understood. There is another differentiation, another classification, which is a statically typed language and a dynamically typed language. Statically typed language, basically this classification is based on when the type conformities are checked in a particular programming language. When the type rules are checked during compilation time, then it is called a statically typed language. And when these type rules are checked during the running of the program, then it is called a dynamically typed language. In statically typed language, for example C, the data types of the variables have to be provided in the source code. That's how during the compilation the compiler will be able to check the type conformities. Whereas in a dynamically typed language, you don't need to provide data type in the source code itself. For example, Python, there we do not need to provide the data types in the source code. All the type checking happens during the running of the program, and if some type conformity has been violated, type rule has been violated, then during running of the program only the program will stop. Okay. So, this is one kind of classification. So, here is a kind of XY axis based diagram which puts various languages into various quadrants based on whether they are strongly typed or they are statically typed and so on. As we can see that C and C++ are weakly typed languages and statically typed language, whereas Python, Ruby are dynamically and strongly typed languages. Okay. A weakly typed language is more of a bug than a feature, and you can observe that most of the weakly typed programming languages are older than the strongly typed ones. But a weakly typed language can be seen as a flexibility to the programmer, where he can just quickly convert a float data type to an integer data type and so on, or a 32-bit data or to a 16-bit data when required. A statically typed language results in finding errors at an early stage of development, because all the data type information is already provided to the compiler. So, the machine code that is coming out after compilation is much more efficient in terms of its time required for execution or the memory required for storage of such a machine code. But dynamically typed language provides more flexibility to the programmer because he does not have to provide data type every time he wants to introduce a new variable. Okay. Now coming back more to C based discussion. So C has a very small family of data types, which is like numeric, int, float and double, character, which character is just a single character, and if multiple characters, which is a character array, makes a string data type, and user defined data type, which is struct and union. Struct and union we will not be covering in this particular video. Okay. So the size of data types. So we need to understand this, that the size of data types is not specifically programming language dependent, but also on the processor and compiler dependent. Okay. So for example, in 16-bit machines, the size of integer was 2 bytes. In 32-bit machines, it became 4 bytes, the size of int. It has been considered that int is the native size of processor, that is whatever is the size of its internal register. Its internal register means processor's internal register, that would be the size of int for the programming language developed for that processor. However, the 32-bit computers were so popular and a huge number of software has been written for the 32-bit programming model. So it has become by default that integer is 4 bytes long or 32-bit long. Okay, so that is one thing. However, the following relation is always guaranteed, that the char data type will always be smaller than short data type. Short data type will always be smaller or equal to integer data type, and integer data type will always be smaller or equal to the long data type. Okay. Same goes with float data type also, as written in the third point of the slide. Let's move on and see the last topic for this video, which is endianness. So the numeric data types which span over multiple bytes, the order of arrangement of bytes could be different, right? This difference of arrangement of individual bytes in the data bytes spanning over multiple bytes is called endianness. We will see it with the help of an example. For example, here I have replicated to an identical data, okay, and the memory. When the lower byte goes to lower address and higher byte goes to higher address, there could be one such memory arrangement. Another memory arrangement could be lower byte going to higher address and higher byte MSB going to lower address. This is one kind of memory arrangement. Okay. So when LSB goes to lower address and MSB goes to higher address, this is called little endian, and when LSB of the data goes to higher address and MSB goes to lower address, this is called big endian. Okay. This can result in a problem called as Nuxi problem. When there are two systems A and B. Okay, before going there, we will first see that why endianness came into picture. So when a processor is told by an instruction that you have to pick 4 bytes of integer from a certain memory location, how does it decide that in those 4 bytes which is LSB and which is MSB, which is lower significant byte and which is higher significant byte? There has to be some rule which tells that okay, the first byte is LSB or MSB, right? So that's how the endianness came in. Okay, now coming back to what is the significance of this endianness. If there are two systems A and B, A is working in little endianness and B is working in big endianness, and if both of them want to communicate, they both want to share data with each other, and if there is no protocol between them which is taking care of endianness, then there will be misinterpretation of information communicated between the two systems. So that is a NUXI problem which needs to be taken care if the systems have different endianness. Endianness is not a problem for intra communication within the system itself. Okay. Now there could be one question, why, what is the reason of having different endianness? So there is no technological reason to choose one byte ordering over the other, but generally in different fields, different endianness, like the work started with different endianness, following different endianness, and certain fields tend to remain with such endianness only. So for example, network protocols prefer big endianness, whereas x86 based processor architecture prefer little endianness. So that's it for today. I believe that there was a lot of learning for you in this video, and if you also believe, if you also feel the same, then hit a like button. Thank you.